How did you get to New York City?
So I grew up in a small town near Syracuse, New York. I was telling you earlier ago, briefly, it was minuscule. Population was 2,000. It's actually classified as a village. It's so small. And I got into a school out here for interior design. And I came out to do that. So I moved into a dorm room on 26th Street. I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology. So I went to interior design school for a semester. I knew on the first day that I didn't want to be doing that. I would rather be doing something along the lines of theater or film or storytelling or writing or whatever. And so anyway, I switched my major to film after 1 year, and then I did 1 year in film, and then I stopped going altogether. But I've been in New York for 3 years now, just sort of working on independent theater and writing. I had a job on a film set a couple months ago. That was exciting. But just that. I think I always had, being gay from a small town and interested in theater, I always certainly had a fascination with New York, or some sort of magnetic gravitation to it. That I think has been consistent, but I think what has changed, or what sort of waxed and waned growing up, is whether or not I thought it was possible to come out here. And so I think when I was really young, I probably went around telling everyone I'm going to live in New York City, and that's, my trajectory. And then I think you get a little older into your teen years and you start to like learn about money, or like the logistics of like actually making that work. And then you maybe just start to sort of put it away as a dream versus an actual path. And I can actually, I was thinking about this earlier because I knew that this question was coming. I feel like I can track sort of growing up, like my mental well-being in alongside whether or not I thought it was possible. So meaning like the couple of years when I was a teenager where I was like, I can't move to New York and be a playwright. I think I like maybe fell off the deep end a little bit, or sort of lost track of myself. But it's in the moments where you decide that it's possible because that's what you want, and that you are the exception and you can do it and you can make it work, where I think I thrive. And so what's good is that since I've been here, I've just been in that state of mind for 3 years now, because I'm here and I'm doing it. And that in itself is such an achievement, based on what I thought was possible when I was like 12, living in a really small town. And my dad was a construction worker. My mom was a waitress. I didn't know any playwrights, certainly, or directors or actors or writers. And so I didn't think it was something I could do. But I'm out here and I'm doing it. So that's how I got here.
What was the appeal to you about New York? What was it about the city that was drawing you?
Honestly, I think when I was young, it was something as like simple as just the proximity to like theater and Broadway. Because I was like a musical theater nerd and a theater kid. And so I think it was just like, that's where you go and get a job on Broadway, or just that's where you get to go see, a play. And then I think as I got older, it started to become more like out of a necessity to honor my queer spirit or whatever. I think I just started to realize that like where I lived growing up was not the place for me, and that New York seemed to be, it is like historically and iconically like a safe place for gay people and sort of for gay people in a way. So I think it was that, and also it is so different from everything I knew for the first 18 years of my life, and so I think it was just that complete shell shock and contrast and stimulation I was really excited me. And that's exactly what it's been. It's so wildly different. And now when I go back home, it is like the flip side of it, where I go from here to back home, and it is like so jarring.
Like another planet almost.
Oh, completely other. It's like it's like that. People say New York is its own. There's like the world, and then there's like New York City. It's like such a bubble.
How have you found it? What about New York has been positive, negative so far?
I feel like well, negative is easy. I mean, it is so expensive. I mean, it's so financially forbidding. Thank God I got into a school, because I certainly wouldn't have been able to just move out here, like get an apartment, get a job. Like I mean, sort of soft launched by going into a dorm room and like and then finding a job and then being able to rent. But positive, it's just that these many more just like lifestyle paths are more present, but also just more accepted is the word I'm looking for. So I can come out here and be like a childless gay guy who parties and writes plays, and I'm not like some sort of fuck up. You know what I mean? I'm just like a New Yorker. Yeah. So I think just generally like the freedom of being who I want to be when I want to be it. And I'm certainly community too comes into play in terms of finding people who are like-minded and creative and interested in similar things. Yeah, I mean, it's also just like the abundance of everything is here. I even think about maybe when I get a little older, moving to like a smaller city like Boston or Pittsburgh or whatever. But I think I've just been so spoiled so early on by moving here at 18 and having, I mean, just access to whatever you want in terms of food and culture and art and music and nightlife and certainly like men. Yeah. Whereas where I'm from, it's like I was the only gay boy around. So it's just the like hedonistic abundance of just doing and getting whatever you want. Yeah. I think it's, for me right now, because I'm so young, I think it's like exactly the sort of wavelength I want to be on.
Were you always a writer?
Yeah. So I acted in plays. I did theater, I think maybe since like the 4th grade or something, like pretty young. My parents had tried to put me in sports because all of my siblings were 3-sport athletes. Yeah. And so they made me try everything, and it was so clearly like ill-fitting and square peg, round hole type deal. And I was actually named after a professional wrestler that my brother loved. My older brother was 10 years older than me. And they like let him name me, and he named me after a wrestler named Cael Sanderson.
I know that name.
And he has a brother named Cody, and that's my brother's name. Is that where they're from? Maybe. I mean, he was a legend. It's my namesake, and I have no idea.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Apparently, he was huge. Yeah. I had like a poster. There was a poster of him in my room, and I like took it down and put like a Carrie Underwood poster up or something, like something ridiculous. Like it was just so juxtaposed to all my siblings. So I was forced to try a couple of sports to no avail. And then I started doing theater, and I wrote my first play when I was in the 8th grade. I wrote it in like a couple nights. It was, I mean, retrospectively, like it was probably trash. I was 12. But I like petitioned my school to let me put it up. And they pretty much told me, if you find an advisor, you can use the auditorium and you can like hold auditions and cast it and do whatever. And so I like forced this teacher to like do it with me, even though I don't think she was getting paid. She was just like a very warm woman that liked me. So she did it. And so I put up my first play in the 8th grade. It was like maybe 40 minutes long. But I had wrote it all myself and directed it. And then I did that 3 more times in high school, where I would pretty much just like spend all my free time writing stuff, and then I would go to my drama club or to my theater teacher and pretty much offer up my script as the school play. And so there was a couple times where like the school play was something I had written, and so the whole school would come out and audition. And sometimes I would direct it, sometimes I'd be in it as well, like act in it. And then my senior year, I did like my first full-length play, so it was like an hour 40 something, 2 acts. The school threw a lot of budget behind it. It was in a couple local newspapers. It was cool. And then my senior year, again, like I had sort of gotten bogged down in that sense of thinking I could never actually go to New York and do this. I mean, people like me don't do that, or it's not possible, or it's not realistic. Certainly not lucrative, which that doesn't change. It's not playwriting is not lucrative at all. But So I went to interior design school, and then, like I said, the second I touched down in the city, all of those thoughts that tell you it's not possible, that you shouldn't be doing it, not only go away, but are replaced with like really loud voices in your head telling you, no, that's what you want to do. That's what you were born to do. And anything else would be such a waste and so empty. Compounded with the fact that interior design school is very hard, and it's not like shopping for throw pillows. It's like architecture and math and like insane. So I remember after my first 5-hour interior design lab class, I called my mom and I was like weeping, and I was like, I love being here. I love the campus. I love New York, but I don't want to waste my time getting an interior design degree when I know that's at the end of the day not what I want to do. And so like I said, I switched to film and did that for a year. And then I got this like cool internship with A24 I did for a couple weeks. And then the summer before I was supposed to go back for my second year in my film program, I had sort of as an exercise written a play again, even though for the past year I'd been writing teleplays and screenplays for my film writing classes and my television writing classes. I had written a play again because a lot of the notes I kept getting from my professors kept saying that my screenplays or my teleplays sounded like plays. Too much dialogue and not enough mystery, dead bodies, guns, like they were just like, it sounds like a stage play, and that doesn't sell. And they were very much teaching you how to write films and television series that would sell, that you could make. And so sort of to get out of my system, I had written a play. I think I like thought about it for like maybe a month or two, and then I had written the first draft in like a weekend. And it was the first time I had written a play since high school.
Wow.
And of course, I liked it more than anything I had written in my film program, any screenplay or teleplay I had written in my film program. And I didn't know what to do with it. And then I let my friend read it. She sends me a photo of her crying. It was my best friend, Lark. She's sort of my sounding board for everything. Saying it was terrific, and she had no idea that that was something I did because I just moved out here and I did something else. And so no one really knew that my entire high school career and some of my middle school career was just putting up plays at my school, and the theater was my life.
Yeah.
Like what I truly, truly adored. And so anyway, that summer I put up a staged reading of the play at like this black box theater in Manhattan that I had gotten for free because I knew somebody. And like we sold out this little theater and people came and read it. And I also had to give credit to a man named John Benjamin Hickey. He's a Tony Award winning actor. He directed a play a couple of years ago on Broadway with Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew Broderick called Plaza Suite. Anyway, it's funny because when I was coming to the city to visit my school, I had gone and seen Plaza Suite, the play he directed, with my theater teacher. It was like a college visit that my theater teacher took me on because we were very close, my theater teacher and I. And we saw Plaza Suite because we loved Sarah Jessica Parker from Sex and the City, and we loved Neil Simon, who was the playwright that wrote Plaza Suite. Anyway, cut to, I get this restaurant job after like a year living in the city, and John Benjamin Hickey, who directed Plaza Suite, like walks his dog every day right by my restaurant because he lives on that street in Chelsea. And so I sort of become friendly with him, but he doesn't know that I like truly know who he is. Like I know about his Tony, and I used to listen to cast recordings with him on it growing up. Like he was in the 1996 revival of Cabaret with Alan Cumming and Natasha Richardson, and I listened to that soundtrack all the time. And anyway, so he came and ate at the restaurant with his partner, and he had known me just from seeing each other on the street, and he knew my name. But I told him finally, I was like, I have to say, I know like about you. And I had seen Plaza Suite a couple of years ago when I came out to visit the city with my theater teacher, and we loved it. And I'm such a fan. And I had the play script I had written as an exercise that at that point only my friend had read. And I said, I'm sure you're not going to have time to read it, but I would love to email this to you, and you could just read it and let me know how it is. And he had said, he was like, I'm sort of busy. Send it to me, but I'm going to shoot a pilot and blah, blah, blah. So I sent it to him, and I, again, really, truly assumed nothing would come of it. And then a couple weeks, maybe even a month or two later, I get a huge email from him.
Whoa.
Long email. It's extremely complimentary. He's like, where did you study? This is better than plays I receive from accomplished very, very nice things. And he couldn't believe how I was as old as I was. And I told him I didn't really study anywhere. At that point, I had been in a film program for a year, but playwriting, I didn't. I just adored theater growing up, and I started doing it myself, like writing and putting up plays, like I said, in the 8th grade. And so that email and his liking the play is what made me put up the reading.
Wow.
And so the reading happened. It went well. Everyone who came was really kind, and I felt very proud. And then like a week later, I was supposed to re-enroll in film school. And I just like didn't want to. I wanted to put the play up because I had done a stage reading, but I wanted to stage the play. And I knew once I got back into the swing of a semester in school, I would have no free time.
Yeah. And
so I like temporarily went and told my college I didn't want to come back for a semester. And so far that has been indefinite. But and in terms of I have not gone back, and I don't, as of right now, plan to. Yeah. Anyway, but cut to a year or two later, and I just staged that play at the Brooklyn Center for Theater Research in Greenpoint for six nights. It was fab, and we got to show to like almost 200 people in all came. I actually did make a little money, which is really cool. And it went great, and people were so kind. And John Benjamin Hickey came. And,
no kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And sent me like a great voice note, and I mean, it was in the midst of a heat advisory, and we were you've been to the space,
it's
right?
Hot as fuck in there.
Hot as the old building. So like really shoddy air conditioning. One of the actors brought their own air conditioning. I was getting to Greenpoint really early and like going and buying cases of water from a deli and like putting them on a city bike and biking them to the center. And I bought a bunch of paper fan. Like it's very scrappy and independent. And I was getting there, like I was vacuuming the floors and setting the set and doing the dishes and
DIY.
Yeah, extremely DIY and extremely low budget. But it's exactly, I mean, it's so, like I said, I certainly don't do it for money. And at this point, you don't really do it for acclaim per se either. But the feeling of seeing and hearing something you wrote be performed in a way that it not only affects you, but is affecting like complete strangers is, for lack of a less dramatic word, like glorious. It is just, it's so gratifying.
And beautiful, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I adore it. Nothing else makes me feel that way. And so despite the fact that it's, like I said, extremely strenuous and sometimes thankless, and when you start and you're this early on, it's like nobody is waiting for the next Cael Sullivan play. And so you're really just you're up to bat, and no one is really watching. And so you just have to do it because you love it. And yeah, and so that's why I this first play I just did like I said in June, that play that I had written in between my semesters. Like I said, I just did it because I wanted to do it. And now I can maybe say that a couple people are like waiting to see what I do next, and the people were moved by it. So that's great, and that's why you do it.
Tell me about the play.
So the play was called Boutonniere. It's called Boutonniere. It's about two men the night before their wedding, and it's really, really character forward. So that's really the inciting incident, is that they're getting married the next day. But it's pretty much just at the 11th hour, sort of like last minute anxieties, secrets, shame, sort of rearing its head in the midst of sort of staring down the barrel of a marriage, which is, you know, long,
intense,
binding and intense. Yeah. And there's this third female character that comes into play. She's the neighbor who lives upstairs, and she sort of has this she has this weird connection to one of the other characters. I guess I'm not advertising it anymore, so I don't need to not give it away. But yeah, it ended up being like an hour 45, and there's no scene breaks. It's it's really just a long conversation. And like I said, it's really character driven, and it's Max and Josh. Max, who is like 25 years old, kind of young to be getting married. And Josh, who was 35 and had a whole other marriage with a woman like years and years and years before he came to New York and became gay. And so it's just, it also felt great because when I was writing plays for my high school, I certainly could not include a gay character, let alone like really get into the nitty gritty of like what gay relationships, gay sex, gay shame feels like. And so there's this play specifically, there was a lot of catharsis for me writing that and putting it up here and having my family come and see it. And yeah, it felt very perfect and full circle that I got back to playwriting, which was my first sort of love. And that not only did I get back to it, I got back to it in a way that is completely unadulterated by sort of heteronormative sensibilities. I think sort of, I was mentioning this to you earlier, but I feel like my whole life I've been putting myself and the things I make through this like system of filters to make myself digestible for my straight counterparts. And so to come here and do a play that is so just like honest about the queer experience, felt great. And I'm so excited to do it again, not this play specifically, but to move on to another story and to keep doing it. And like I said, you just keep doing it for yourself, because it's playwriting. It's like not, it's like I said, not lucrative. And even like I actually I have a friend of a friend who their play was on Broadway only a couple of years ago. And I think they're already back bartending. Like it's, unless you are like Tony Kushner and like win the Pulitzer, it's like you really you just keep doing it because you love it and you feel called to.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. What about the gay experience did you want to share in this play? I
think this, certainly I didn't touch on all of it, but this play specifically was definitely about marriage anxiety, but I guess it's that. It's the fear for a gay man, especially for a younger gay man. It's the fear of stillness or the fear of labeling or tying something up in a bow and saying this is what this is. It's like this really inconvenient need to be moving and fluid that it is extremely inconvenient and unhelpful when it comes to relationships, honestly. The character Max, who's sort of the protagonist and the one who's having the most sort of last minute anxiety or qualms with the impending union, is just extremely sort of really honest and transparent and sort of like I said, we spoke earlier about just like wanting to be selfish, especially when you grew up and you needed to perform for people and you needed to code switch, yes, to make everyone comfortable. And so it's like marriage almost feels like another version of that. And so it's just this this sort of urge that is, I think, is sometimes can just be specific to gay people, this urge to keep moving and being colorful and fluid and free. Yeah. So just that part of the gay experience and how, like I said, it's an extremely inconvenient and sometimes destructive way of living. We always said during rehearsal the queer wedding or the gay wedding is sort of an oxymoron because gayness and queerness has always been a source of destruction. Or I mean, for years the gay future was disease or addiction or death or being in the closet.
Yeah.
And so to compound this really nuanced thing with marriage, which is, you know, the union of two families and a precursor to children, it on paper certainly sounds like it's not going to work, because that's not how gay people operate. And marriage isn't an institution or that was written by gay people or for gay people. And so for us to try to sort of acclimate into that culture is tricky. Yeah, it's sort of it was also a part something I read while writing the play was it was a book. It's a book called Bad Gays. But anyway, there was a little part about I believe it was called the gay as militionists split. Pretty much after AIDS, like the world sort of declared AIDS was over or whatever because of whatever life-saving medication they discovered. There's a journalist who put in like a huge newspaper like pretty much that AIDS is over and they have a cure, but really that medicine was just handed out to like rich gay people, white gay people, high profile gay people, and so AIDS very much existed for like 10, 15, 20 years after they had declared that it was no longer an epidemic. But it existed for like working class gay men, black gay men, trans women. So the queer community was split down the middle in terms of like half of the community wanted to fight in the military, wanted to get married, and the other half was like, fuck any state institution. I mean, they don't want us. Why are we like banging on that door? Yeah. So in a way, both of the characters in the play, the two men, are sort of different ends of that movement. There's a line where Max says to Josh, you're looking one way trying to fix, I'm looking the other way trying to invent. And so it's just this clash of like I said, the queer and the wedding and the gay and the marriage. It's this clash of fluidity and freedom and restriction and labeling and
traditionalism moving into the mainstream.
Exactly.
Do you get the sense these days that there is a pressure culturally for quote unquote responsible gay long-term couples to get married like you see with heterosexual relationships?
I think it's expected less. And I think a lot of people don't expect. Well, certainly it's expected less when you relative to straight people.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's expected less because of the reasons I just laid out. I think it's more so expected less because straight people might think that we're not equipped for marriage in a way that is like maybe borderline homophobic. And then on the other hand, maybe it's expected less because we're making it clear that that's not what we want. Yeah, I don't really know. I guess ultimately, I think it is shifting now, but certainly like the early 2010s, it was very much, I mean, like just the race to get gay marriage legalized. Yeah. And it's sort of like the hangover of we did that, but now we're like, why did we do that? It was like such a, I don't want to speak. I certainly can't speak for the entire community. And I also think it's so depending on generation too. Like marriage equality for gay men who grew up during AIDS or the 60s, 70s, 80s or whatever. I can see why that's something that they find worth fighting for. But someone like me who's in their early 20s, I don't put any emphasis on the need to get married. Yeah, and like I said, I think the queer community is the most creative people in the world, the most creative people you'll meet, and so we are very much equipped and able to come up with something new, or come up with a million new relationship structures or foundations. So the reason that for years we have not, and for some of us continue not to, is bizarre. And it sort of makes you think just like how much the marriage and that trajectory is sewn into everybody, or put into everybody. Even gay people who think that they're above that sort of normality. It's just something, it's like for a lot of people, the only structure, the only path they can see is marriage and then kids and then retirement and then move to Florida or whatever.
I heard this line once. This was post the same-sex marriage being legalized in the country, and it was a journalist who was making a quip about someone talking to a friend and saying, gay marriage, encouraging gay people to get married. Haven't they suffered enough?
Wait, that's genius. I've never heard that. That's hilarious. But yeah, that is exactly the point. And it's like we're doing it in a way, doing it to ourselves. And it's like, I don't know, guys. It doesn't, I mean, it's literally like such a faulty system, even for straight people. Isn't the divorce rate like 50% or something? Yeah. That's really funny. Haven't they suffered enough? Exactly.
I'd love to talk about your love of writing. And you said this earlier that you'd have to be you have to love it to do this for a career because of how unlikely it is that it will ever be resulting in something financially prosperous.
Yeah.
What is it about writing itself that attracts you so much to the written word?
I think, especially with the last play that I had just done, I think it's, especially when it's fictional writing or writing for the theater, it is permission to be completely honest. And because it's not like memoir or autobiography, it is like, again, it's that freedom. It's a thing it's a medium where you can say whatever you want, and whether you like sort of sneakily hide yourself into one of the characters or all of the characters, it's like a forum for complete honesty, which I think especially now is so, I hate when artists say so necessary, but it feels, at least for me in my life, necessary because I mean, there is just, I mean, where in the world is that really happening right now? Like complete honesty, and not honesty for shock's sake or honesty in order to offend or hurt a group of people or a person, but honestly, just for the sake of like, this is how I feel and this is what I think. And there is enough distance because it's a fictional play that it's not, too revealing, I guess. But like I said, there's a lot of catharsis, and for me, at least, when I write a play and you don't really know or think that much of it is about you, and then in ways you would never expect, you're like in characters that are like a character that is a woman or a character that is like 70 years old, you know what I mean? You start to see yourself and your story sewed throughout the entire thing, and it's really cool. And like the audience sort of knows it, but some of it's also just for you. But I think just the transparency of playwriting is really a fun place for me to be in. Because I don't think it would, my honest self is accepted at a lot of places, in a lot of other places, and not even just, I mean, you can't be honest at like working at Google. Like you're swallowing like everything you want to say, or even I wait tables to pay my rent, and it's like I certainly can't be honest there. I mean, that is all performance and facade. I mean, and obviously performance and facade is theater as well, but that's the other cool sort of dichotomy of honestness and performance. But yeah, I think it's that. I always go back to that word when I'm thinking about writing, is honesty. Yeah,
that's very well put. I think you said this earlier, that this play or a play you cranked out in a weekend. What's your process for actually doing creative writing for something you want to produce at some point?
I think it's certainly a little different every time, but I think the pattern I can pick up on is I think about a play for a very long time. I write notes about a play, mostly my phone, which is so not romantic. I would love to be a paper and pen person, but I'm not. So I think about a play, and I think about characters and circumstance for a very long time, like a month or two, maybe longer. And I write notes, and then the notes sort of start to divulge into, I start to like monologue as the characters in my phone a lot of the time. And then once you think you know the characters and the circumstance enough, then you can start writing dialogue. And then because you've thought about it for so long, for me at least, it spills out of me, and I really only need a couple days to get a draft done. And then of course there's a reworking. And I love like peer review, and I love to show it to people now. But yeah, I think I just think about it a really long time, and then it can spill out really quickly. which is so invigorating to all of a sudden have like 100 pages of something in a weekend. Yeah, it's super, and it's not always that easy, but I think that's the pattern I'm in a lot is that.
I know you are very early in your career, but do you get the sense that this is, for lack of a better word, your calling? Like this is what you think you're meant to do?
I think so. Lately I have a weird sort of relationship with career and productivity in the sense of like, I think my calling is to like make people laugh or to like get lunch with my friends and talk shit about people. But it's like, of course I'm not allowed to say that because it's like, well, that's not a career path and that's not like.
Can't put that on the resume.
No, but it's like, when am I happiest? Like, I'm not doing any type of work. And playwriting, while it is so gratifying and, like I said, invigorating, glorious, it is still like production.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, I do think if my options are really only productivity, which I kind of think that in this country at least, especially in the city, they kind of are. Yes, playwriting is like this type of production I am happiest producing and doing. And I sort of arrogantly think I'm great at it. At least in my opinion. Like I said, so much of it I just do for me, and I feel proud of what I write. But yeah, I do feel like I'm good at, I could have done interior design or I could have went into film, but this feels like the most, like I said, the most me and the most honest thing I can share with people. Yeah.
What makes a great playwright? I mean, I think you probably have to believe you're really good at something to take the time and the energy you are and the expense to give this a shot. But what, in your opinion, like what makes for a capable, talented playwright?
Oh God. Well, I don't know if I can answer for everybody, but for me at least, like I said, what I'm finding is I think there's this huge emphasis on, I feel like I sound stupid saying this, but I feel like there's this huge emphasis on like what the audience is thinking or enjoying, and I feel I always trust that if I like it or if I find it interesting or I find it funny, that other people will. And so I think it's like, yeah, I think like you sort of reiterated, I think it's trusting yourself and knowing that if you've thought about it and you've written it down, I think it's almost incapable of being completely uninteresting and uninspired. And I think I was just talking to my friend about this. I sort of hate a lot of writers get the note self-indulgent when, especially if you're writing something that's like semi-autobiographical or memoir or whatever, self-indulgent. And I'm always like, well, it's my hobby. Of course I'm going to indulge myself. And so I don't know. I think for me, I think I wrote a great play if it's a play that I enjoy, or it's a play that I would have loved to have seen growing up, or I would like, if I read the blurb, I would like run to the theater to go see it now. And if I enjoy it and find it funny and find it moving, I think that makes a great play, and I guess thus a great playwright. Yeah, but I also think it's like if you have fun writing it and you have fun putting it up, it's a really good sign that people are going to enjoy it. Yeah.
I would imagine for anyone that might be listening to this who is an aspiring playwright, they would love to hear the story of, you alluded to this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but the going from having nothing written down to having a play that you have written to having actors speaking your words in front of a public audience and you, as you said, making some money from it. How exactly did it move from the early stages of writing the play itself? And I know you met the man who helped you put it on, I think, the first time, and then it got to be the Brooklyn Center. The move to it going to the Brooklyn Center for Theater Research, did you know someone there? Like, how did you move into that venue, make the connections necessary to be, because it's a lot of work to get a lot of moving pieces to organize in time.
It is a lot of work. And that's why I had no other option but to stop going to school, because yeah, like DIY theater and self-producing is so, and that's why my boutonniere wrapped like a month ago at this point, and I have like I'm giving myself like ample time because it is so exhausting.
Yeah.
And financially stressful because you're putting a little bit of your own money into it, your own savings into it, and hoping that you'll recoup. And like I said, I luckily did. But I got really lucky. But B, I also did play my cards right in terms of I went and saw a play at the Brooklyn Center for Theater Research when I was in film school, and it was the first time I had been to a theater space that was not like a classic auditorium with a proscenium and a red velvet curtain. And it was this like loft, this big white brick loft with like folding chairs. And when I got to the theater and I had no idea, I just saw the title of the play and that it was in Greenpoint. When I got to the theater, I saw the kind of space it was, and I sort of arrogantly assumed it was going to be awful.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, this is like someone's basement.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? But then I go and the play is terrific. It was Matt Gazza's play, who you've had in the podcast, and Mia was in it.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Valet, I think it is.
Yeah. It was Matt's by Child Death Song, and I saw it. It's terrific. But I left. I remember it was raining, and I got into an Uber, and I immediately called my mom, and I was like, "There's no reason I'm not writing plays anymore. Like, plays are so much easier to put up than movies because I was in school studying how to make movies, but the barrier to making a movie versus the barrier to making theater is like just Matt Gazza he used to put up plays in bar rooms, and he continues to put up plays in like really untraditional small spaces. Yeah, but it was realizing that you could, like you said, write something and actually have it made versus film school. It's like you can write your feature film and you can wait 20 years to get $5 million, which $5 million in film money is like a nickel. Yeah. It just felt reachable all of a sudden. Again, seeing independent theater, I thought it's something I could do. So I wrote the first draft of Boutonniere, and I took a playwriting class with Matt Gazza, who runs the Brooklyn Center for Theater Research. And I had a finished draft of Boutonniere at that point, but I took the class in order to like perfect my draft. And I did with him and a couple of other playwrights in the class. And then I run into him a couple weeks later at a play, and he comes up to me and he's like, I've been meaning to talk to you about you understudying in one of my plays. And I was like, well, I haven't acted since high school. Like, that's not really something I do. Are you sure? And I don't know if you got into this with him, but he like doesn't have anyone audition. He pretty much just like looks at somebody and like knows they can do it and trusts them. So he did that to me, even though he met me as a playwright. And so I ended up understudying in one of his plays. I think I got to go on like 4 or 5 times. Had a great time. It was so fun. It's his play called Denmark. It's like a family drama. It's really, really genius. But I sort of half took the job because I wanted to use that as a vehicle to persuade him to let me put up a play in his space. And so I pretty much did exactly that. I did Denmark. I had a great time doing Denmark, and I met so many people, and it reminded me that I do love acting as well. And that's something I will do if people want me to, I guess. But yeah, I just kept in contact with him, and I invited him to some other like small internal readings of the play I would do. And then eventually I think I bugged him enough to where he was like, at first he was like, I'll give you 4 nights in June. And I sort of sold it as like a Pride Month thing for the space. Cool. And then I ended up getting 6 nights. And so, yeah. And I had purposely, because the catalyst of me wanting to write the play was going to see a play at the space, I had written the play almost with that space in mind. Yeah. The very low maintenance, no scene changes, so it almost could be done with no stage lighting. Yeah, simple costume, simple set. I didn't write in any insane special effects thing. Very small cast because I knew casting, like going out and finding people to like come and do a play for free, is hard. And so I wrote a really low maintenance play meant to be just popped up in any small space. Yeah, and then it just sort of happened, and it's funny. It happened so quick too, because I think I saw Child Death Song, the play that inspired me to get back into playwriting. I think a year and 3 months after seeing Child Death Song, Boonier was up at the space. So I pretty much just got to work, and like I said, I stopped going to school. So I just was like, I'm gonna finish this play and put it up, and I did it within like a year, I think. Which, like I said, feels so much better than writing a screenplay. And I mean, just like having it sit in a drawer, because you need $10 million and like a bunch of producers and a huge crew and actors and cameras and equipment. And so, it just the accessibility of theater, I think, is what got me back on that track.
Yeah. The financial component to this, you've talked about in brief about how expensive this place is. How have you survived? How are you making this work where you can pay your rent and just the day-to-day living of being in New York? How is that working for you? And what have you learned for other people that might be listening about how to do that well?
Yeah. That is the thing. That is the game. So I started waiting tables when I got my first restaurant job when I was 15. I was a busser, and then I started waiting tables when I was 16. So I was a waiter at 16. And I had, I think, 2 different serving jobs in high school. My mom is like a career, like restaurant worker or waitress. Now she has like a more formal position at a restaurant she's been working at for years. Both my sisters had done it at some point. My brother, I think, bartended a couple years in Connecticut. My brother-in-law. It was just, I think, from my mother, sort of, that always was just like an option to make good money, and like way better money than you make working. I mean, even like the entry-level film jobs I would have gotten out of school, or the one that I did get, working on like a multi-million-dollar A24 movie. Yeah, like I make more money waiting tables. And so I moved into my dorm room when I was 18 into New York, and I thought I had a savings account that was big enough to where I didn't need to work and just could focus on school. And of course I get here and I'm like a pig in mud, or whatever that saying is, like a pig in whatever. And I mean, I'm going through like $1,000 like a week. Like I'm spending an insane amount of money, and I'm like, oh, so I need to work to live in New York. Not that I was paying rent. I was in a dorm, but it's just the idea of like, it is so expensive here, and you don't move here necessarily to sit in your apartment. Sure. And so I got back into waiting tables. I thank God I had experience, because it's hard to get a serving job here without experience. Some places even require New York City experience. So I was at a place for a year, and then I've been at my current job for like a year and a half. So waiting tables, and I make enough money to only work I've never worked more than a 4-day work week since I moved here, which is so rare for people. I know people who work like 9 shifts a week. They'll do like 2 doubles, and you know what I mean? Like, so I've just been working like pretty lucrative restaurant jobs. And it's something I'm good at. And, the low stakeness of a restaurant job is so nice, because it's food and drinks. It's not like, nothing serious. And if you it's so silly in a lot of ways. And I've met like best friends at relatively easy way to make money. And like I said, I'm making more money waiting tables than I would be making as a production assistant on a film set. I know, because I was a production assistant on a film set, and I made like awful money, and the hours were insane. And so I wait tables essentially. Other odd jobs will pop up, but really just that. Yeah.
And is this a high-end restaurant? Like, would that be your suggestion to a friend who wanted to try to survive in New York, is like work 4 days a week at some place that's expensive where you can make good tips?
It's overpriced. Okay. It's not, I wouldn't say it's high-end. It's like a brunch place. Okay. You go and get a job, and I don't know. It's sort of different everywhere, and every restaurant does like tip pool policies differently. But for sure, I recommend anybody, first of all, I think everybody should work in the restaurant industry in terms of like basic human decency and like empathy lessons.
Yeah.
It's humbling for sure. But yeah, I would recommend anybody to try to work in a restaurant for those two reasons, because it's lucrative and it's also low stakes. So it's not like you're not going home and thinking about like the waffle you served, versus like my sister is works in a hospital. My brother-in-law is a New York State trooper. My other sister is a clinical psychologist. So it's like these really high stakes, like in some instances, life or death type work environments, or you're dealing with that in your work environment. And the fact that I get to go like take orders and then leave, and I have all this energy to do what I want to do, whether it be write or go to lunch and talk shit about people with my friends, or to like make some sort of crude joke and make people, you know what I mean? It's like, I have all the time and energy and enough money to do that with with my restaurant job.
I'd love to close with talking about success, which is something I love to talk to guests about. And as we talked about earlier in this interview, that you're so early in your career, but as you think about the next year, 2 years, 3 years, your trajectory in general, how do you think about that word as it applies to yourself? And maybe you're already there, getting to work on things that you love. What does the word success mean to you?
I mean, two sort of avenues come to mind. Like I said, the one like utopian would be like not having to worry about money at all.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not the reality for the majority of people, and certainly not me. So realistically, within the next couple of years, I think I would probably keep doing what I'm doing now in a way that is safe and secure in terms of like having enough money to like throw up a play, maybe making a little money off the plays. Yeah, I mean, you always sort of, despite this sort of like DIY or indie spirit, you always sort of hope that this project is the one that's going to get like discovered, and you're going to get like $1 million check, and you're going to sell it to someone, or they're going to make a, you know what I mean? That is always sort of the hope. But I think you have to be grounded in the reality that you might just be doing this for you and the 200-ish people you can get to come see it. Yeah, so yeah, I guess just making work that I'm proud of and hoping that other people like it. But ultimately, it's, I guess to me, success in playwriting would just mean doing it. And I mean, there was a couple years where I was telling people I'm a filmmaker and I had never made a movie. So to say, to go to people at a party and say I'm a playwright and I just had a play up a couple months ago, my next play is going to be up this September, whatever, feels really good to me. And it does feel like a point of arrival in a way, just the fact that you are doing it. Yeah, but like I said, unfortunately, even for me, success is so tied up in financial security and all of these things. So it's unclear, to be frank. And that's not like a neat answer. But yeah, for me, in terms of career fulfillment or creative fulfillment, it is just doing it and not compromising the kind of work you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's what's good about the independent setting or the DIY setting is there isn't like people in your ear telling you what to do. It's, I mean, you are the author of everything and the proprietor of that story and that night in the theater, that 2 hours. There is no one else watching you. Like, it's just you. So yeah, free, unadulterated writing. Yeah, I guess that's what success would mean in that context.
I would love to sneak in one more question, which is, who are your most beloved playwrights in history? Who are the people you admire that you have you've seen their work? I think you mentioned one earlier, but who in your mind are the great geniuses in this space?
I'm really basic. I'm really basic in this. I mean, it's like, have you ever heard of Tennessee Williams? Like, it's the most, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, certainly Tennessee Williams, I adore. Like the most famous gay playwright, and I love to him, Edward Albee, also a gay playwright, and was it Terrence McNally? There's another gay playwright I'm thinking of from that era. I kind of forget his name though, to be honest. But I love to examine their work, and I love to examine their female characters, because I think the closeted gay playwright's instinct a lot of the time in that era was to put themselves and their female characters.
Interesting.
The most obvious example being Blanche Dubois in Streetcar is a lot of people say, well, it's sort of a combination between him, Tennessee Williams, or I think his birth name was Tom, but he sort of named himself Tennessee, and his sister Rose. But yeah, if you go back and examine these playwrights' female characters, it is so interesting to think about it through that lens of they didn't know how to. They literally could not write a gay character for the stage in that era.
Yeah.
And so they would sort of sneak in the emotionality of the feminine man into their female characters. But yeah, Tennessee Williams comes to mind. I love Edward Albee, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, like changed my life when I read that. I think I read it when I was like 11. Like probably so much of it probably went over my head, but I remember adoring it and adoring Martha, the female character in that. Yeah, those two come to my head, Edward Albee and Tennessee Williams. Lately, I love Brandon Jacobs Jenkins, who did Purpose, who's with on Broadway right now, and then did Appropriate last year.
I loved Appropriate.
He's a genius. I feel like I was just thinking of someone earlier, but I forgot. And obviously, Tony Kushner and Angels in America, also one of those plays that changed me, and something I reference all the time, if not directly. It's just I sort of realized that I was thinking about those characters and those circumstances sort of after the fact, because it is so it's something that is just so in my body, that play, Angels in America. I mean, and I don't know if it's like 7 hours long. It's like it's the most affecting piece of theater ever, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, it's in 2 parts and there's intermissions, but it's part 1 and part Millennium Approaches and part 2 Perestroika. It's a genius play about it's set in Reaganism, AIDS era New York, and it's beautiful. I didn't think it won the Pulitzer. It's a masterpiece. But yeah, I mean, just I really gravitate towards, sort of clearly, I gravitate towards queer playwrights. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, those guys.
Cael, thank you so much.
Thank you. Was it already, how long has it been?
Let's see. An hour.
Oh, wow. Okay, work.
It flies, dude.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.